What up, what up, what up? Another Monday, it's the Words with Friends podcast. I'm back. I go by the name of Jabari. Sorry if we were gone last week. For those that follow me on social networks or get any of my emails, you guys know that I just released my new clothing line. It's called Bicoastal. It really took a lot. It was like 3 to 4 months in the making. Been working really closely with a lot of my confidants on the line, and people getting me set up and everything like that. So anyways, it's out right now. The brand is all about introducing travel and encouraging, introducing travel to people and also encouraging travel amongst young people. And it was really inspired by my travels. I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot of places throughout my career, and so, I wanted the pieces in the clothing to reflect that. So for those listening, go to bicoastalusa.com, bicoastalusa.com, and all the social networks are at bicoastalusa. And again, if you guys are liking the podcast, if you guys want to keep supporting the podcast, Words with Friends is pretty much mostly every Monday. You can go to patreon.com/Jabari and leave as little as a $1 tip to make sure that we keep this thing going for you guys. And so, speaking of clothing and getting in the game, I had to bring these guys, some good friends of mine, and, they are heavy in the independent clothing game. And, not only are these guys my friends, but I really respect and admire the independent work that they do, and they've been at it for, quite some time. Philly Cats. And I want to introduce to you guys Babylon Cartel and AnmlHse. So everybody make an introduction and, let them know who you all are.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gianni Lee of Babylon Cartel, producer also, and we're here today.
Yeah, this is Mark Rice from Babylon Cartel / photographer.
This is Aaron, Babylon of Babylon Cartel, just marketing style director, from Philly. Happy to be. I was waiting for applause. I want to hear some applause. But.
What's going on? It's Johnny Rabbit, AnmlHse, co-founder and creative director.
Nice. All right. Now, I know you guys personally, so that was like I felt like you guys were like nervous giving yourself that introduction. Like, you guys are never that calm.
Like put us on the spot. So,
okay.
We didn't know.
So, first off, we are in downtown LA at the Babylon Cartel Loft. Tell me a little bit about this space and this creative space. You guys came out here. How long have you guys been here?
We've been here for almost 2 years.
Okay.
It kind of happened like a domino effect. Like, I came out here, but actually, you know what funny is? Aaron came out here first to visit, and that kind of inspired me to want to come out, and I just took the initiative and just came out. And Aaron just called me. He's like, "Yo, how is it?" And I was like, "Yo, you got to come out here." Like, a couple months passed.
Yeah, a couple months after that.
Passed.
Had to come out after that.
Aaron came out, and then like a week after that, we found this space, and then Mark came out like right after, And when we saw it, we just immediately fell in love, and we knew that it was something special, and we had to do something with it versus just making it like a living space. We had to bring some sort of element to it. We had to brand it. We had to like bring people in and make them feel a certain type of way when they come in. And we want people to feel inspired. So it just made sense for as soon as you come in to have our logo on the wall. Like, why not? Like, what are the rules of moving into an apartment?
Yeah.
It's people with apartments down here in LA. They have showrooms, offices. So we thought we would have like a creative space for us and other people that come through and visit. You know what I mean? Like, something for everybody.
Let's talk a little bit about this live workspace because I think pretty much all of us are on the same boat with that. We all sort of live out of our home, work out of our homes. How do you sort of separate life and work?
It's hard. It's like, honestly, I feel like we're working 24 hours a day. Even when we're sleeping, in the middle of the night, we were working. Not in the sense of we sleeping, working.
But an idea might come up.
Yeah. Idea may come up and it'll be like, me and Gianni, we kind of like, the way our rooms are set up, we kind of like share like sound space a little bit. So it's like, if I have an idea, he'll have an idea, we'll just yell it across across the room.
But it's also funny, like, how like when you text your friends, you might text them something funny, but you don't know their reaction.
Yeah.
So I'll text them a meme or something like that, and then I'll just hear, huh. You know what I mean? Like, no response, but that's it.
But it's interesting because at the same time we are friends, so we do live together, but we work together. So it's like trying to keep those lines from blurring is kind of hard because sometimes there are things that I may do for the brand that I kind of take in as my responsibility. And when I'm doing them, I want to focus on them, and that's it for that portion of the time. But at the same time, it's like, say if Gianni wants to work on music or Mark wants to work on photography, you know, and it's just an interesting dynamic just to live in, but it's kind of hard sometimes to control that. Turn on work mode or roommate mode or friend mode. It's real interesting to balance those.
You never know what mode you're gonna get. Like, you know what I mean? Like Mark could just come in kicking down the door like, yo, what's up? And, and we're like in work mode. Or I could just come in and just be blasting some music and everybody else is in work mode. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or it could be anyway, you know what I mean? But we kind of learn to tune each other out in a certain way, and it kind of just works. We never really argue or anything like that. So it's just like, oh, okay, you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing over here, and we kind of learned about each other more. I feel like just from living together. We never lived together ever. You know what I mean? We spent a lot of time together.
Well, you guys started the brand before you lived together.
Yeah.
We started the brand
in college
over 6 years ago.
7 years ago.
Yeah. So we've been doing this since pretty much back in 2006 in Philadelphia, and that's actually how we ran into Johnny. It was like one of those things like a fisherman sees another fisherman from afar type of thing. Mm-hmm. Like John was doing this thing down in our institute. We were kind of on Temple's campus, doing our thing. And it was literally doing the same thing. We both had our clothing lines. We both had our own culture that we created in school.
Parties.
Yeah.
That was the best.
Yeah, the parties were amazing. And they had their own elements, but everybody always showed love to the other element. You had Temple had its own scene. We had Greeks on campus. They would come to our house parties, come to our events, and then at the same time, a lot of those people just from the merging of culture. From what it is to go to Art Institute and be more of an art student, and to go to Temple, which is more of that traditional type of education, and people just the culture spread because we went to each other's parties. So you would randomly walk on Temple's campus and you would see John, or you would see other people from Art Institute on Temple's campus, and vice versa. John would be in his room and he'll be coming out, and I'm just roaming the hallways of Art Institute. You know what I mean? Because I've made other friends through John. Just from being around, it was crazy. Wow! It was a real, it was a culture. It was like gumbo almost.
Never let John throw house parties.
And never fall asleep at an animal house party. Never fall asleep.
I told him, you gotta kind of.
You had broken sinks, holes in the wall, shit.
All right, Johnny, let's talk a little bit about what inspired you to start getting into clothing back in those days, and your upbringing in Philly.
Really just growing up as an artist. I started off drawing up in the church pews when I was 5. Eventually getting interest in animation and just going to school for that, and then just meeting a whole bunch of cool college friends. Everybody was just photographer, artist, designer. Everybody was doing something fashion, whatever it was. We was all kind of collectively doing the same thing. So we was like, yo, why aren't we doing something? So at the time we were throwing parties, which was fun. It was like, oh, okay, we're in college throwing parties. So we eventually just yo, we need to turn this into something. We're all doing this one thing that we have a passion for, and we turned it into AnmlHse. And that's how that all started, just from throwing parties and just being close with each other.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about, these early days, because you guys have said you started Babylon Cartel 6 years ago, and Johnny, when did AnmlHse start?
Pretty much 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay, and I would say, from the outside looking in, it seems like now things are starting to get really moving. You know what I mean? You guys have a fan base, a clientele. Most importantly, customers, paying customers, right? That purchase your materials and all that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the beginning days and what that stuff looked like, and what you wish you would have known now that you didn't know then.
Oh man!
Or I'm sorry, what you wish you would have known then that you didn't know now. That you know now.
We should have took it more seriously. That's one.
Mm-hmm. When you say we should have taken it more seriously, what specifics?
I felt like we slept on a lot of opportunities, and we could have took advantage of them opportunities. And being young, it just went. I don't know. It just
it went its own way.
It went its own way.
I guess when we started the brand, we didn't really know where we were going to take it. We knew that we wanted to do something that was big, but we were young. We were inexperienced. We and it also comes back to our backgrounds. We never really came from households that you know, like my mother didn't like graduate high school. You know what I'm saying? But my mother, like, she had a very well-rounded like artistic mind, so she understood and respected the artistic process. So like her gift to me was keeping me in programs. She didn't know any, like, you know, it was like, I don't know anything about that stuff, but I know my son needs to be doing it. So she kept me in those programs, and it kind of like kept me cultured and kept me seasoned of understanding that it was more outside of like where I grew up, like the environment that we grew up in. You know what I mean? So then coming to college, it was just like a culture shock for me because I wanted that. Like, I really wanted to be around different people of all colors, all races, and like make something, you know what I mean? But I couldn't do it where I was from because a lot of my friends weren't on that type of wave, you know? So you get to college and it's like you have this thing now and you don't really know what to do with it, you know? You just know you wanted to get out there, so we would do things like have parties and just be throwing teas in the crowd. Like, we would be spending like, you know, hundreds of dollars. You know, we all worked, you know, spend hundreds of dollars on shirts and like looking for profit. But like, oh, Gianni just threw out like 10 shirts at, you know what I mean, at an event. Mark threw out 7 somewhere else. And you know what I mean? Like, you friends, they see you doing something, they just want to be a part of it. So I feel like that was the early days. You know what I mean? We were making these designs and we weren't like, you know, professionally trained like artists, you know.
We had our own like sensibility.
Yeah, we had our own sensibility. We had our own things about us. Like everybody like chipped in and had their certain things. You know what I mean? Me, I had more of like, I guess like that structured art background because I went to like Charter High School for Architecture and Design. So I like learned the basics of like art. But that was like also my college because I didn't go to school for art because I felt like I didn't want to be a starving artist. So I wanted to go to school for something more conventional. So like, okay, so I could learn and like, okay, learn the business side, maybe get some money from it, you know what I mean? And so like, luckily I went to a high school for that. So I feel like it helped, you know what I mean? It helped developing like the brand even more because like we had that background, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it was certain things that we didn't even realize that we should have been doing until we're at the point right now where it's really happening. Like celebrities are wearing our brand, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a whole nother dynamic. It's a whole nother thing that you're dealing with because now that those eyes are on you, the other eyes whose eyes are on them are on you now because they're like, well, if you're making something that they're worthy of wearing, how can we be a part of that? We want to make money off of it. You know what I'm saying? And that's where like everything else comes in. And we wish we would have known it sooner, but it's better now than never, you know? Yeah. But I can only speak for like us. Like I know with AnmlHse, it was like a totally different but similar like journey because like right after we came out with our first collection, I remember John was like, okay, that's nice. We got some shit for you. We got something for you. I'm like, whatever, John. Like, and then John started with this like campaign. I don't know. Like, John was always good with campaigns because they would just knock out like.
John gotta explain that.
They would knock out illustrations, and like that's how AnmlHse like. That's how I found out about it. Like, he started doing this campaign.
Yeah, but we were doing like all these things off of MySpace, like in the early days where people would just hit us up for pictures and stuff like that. So we was getting like people like Gym Class Heroes, like a whole bunch of people that were like popping back then, like Drake, and we were just like drawing them in as animals and just like send to people. So people would like just post them up in their own comments joints and their friends would hit us up, and we weren't getting paid for this. So we was just like doing all these shits for free. Yeah. We was like stressing, like, yo, why are we doing this? Like, and then we ended up stopping and just like making like a whole bunch of shirts. But then like, just like they were saying, you know, not being business savvy back then and just like, you know, wanting to do something and like your friends loving it, we were just making like, you know, 20 designs, like doing like 10 color tees, and we were doing like 10 of each, and like we were just pushing it out. Like we would sell out, but it was just like, damn, we're not making any money. You know how like everybody would hit us up thinking we're making money, but it's like, yo, we sold out of all this shit, but we don't have anything to show for that. So, you know, I think it's like a lot of experience learning back then, just, you know, how to not do things, and it was a good experience too. And I think it's also like another thing like that kind of like we learned about was being in a box. Right. And that's what like, you know, all of us from Philly was just like, we did like a lot of things in Philly, but like eventually it felt like we were all like in a box, you know, because we like local. Yeah, I mean, whether it's locally or whatever creatively, you know, it's also we wanted to like always travel and stuff like that and just, you know, take things to the next level. So I think that's one of the things that I wish I knew back then, like, you know, trying to get to different places. You know, we always tried to do things in Philly thinking like, you know, this is for the city, but not thinking like, okay, we can take this stuff, you know, to different cities, take it internationally. So I think that's something we learn now, where even being out here in LA, it's definitely a good move for us.
Yeah. And I think a lot of things we learned, you know, in school number one thing is like, okay, school is like this place of community where, like I said, something about sensibilities earlier. Everyone kind of shares like those shared values. Like we all love like the same type of music. We all like, we love multicultural things, and no one just loves just one particular thing. I think, once we got older, we graduated, it was like, we were from Philly. So we stayed in school. We went to school in Philly. We didn't got to go to school in New York. We didn't go to school like down south. So we had all these friends that were from all these places who like graduated and left the city. So we like the kind of only guys like still doing exactly what we were doing in college. Not necessarily just like playing around and throwing parties, but kind of like, we had our own, islands that we created, for like, the brands, So it's like, once that happened, it was like, okay, how do we, again, draw a crowd, to affect the same way we affected them in college. And I feel like we couldn't do that strong enough in Philadelphia. We created something there. We had a fan base there. We did like, we started doing concerts. We also started doing parties, more upscale social events, but it just didn't seem like we were getting anywhere. And it was like time to just like roll out, pack up the wagon and like get up out of there.
Yeah, like we came to the realization, like for you to really be a successful brand, we feel like to a certain extent people have to miss you, or they can't really get so much of you over and over again in the same region. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you have to kind of like spread it out. So if you're continuously throwing like the same event or just various events, like you're kind of like, you're just wearing your name out. It doesn't really seem as exclusive or as like important for you to be there because, you can start missing them because it's promised to you that it's going to be there.
Yeah.
Right.
But once you leave,
we never want someone to be like, yo, I'm gonna sit this event out.
Right.
I'll come to the next one.
Yeah.
We always talked about that. We hated to have our customers say that.
Yeah, like a lot of times it got to a point where we wouldn't be in Philly that much. Like we would still live there, but we started trying our hand on like throwing events in other cities. Just having presence in other cities, even if it was just going somewhere and just being there, showing face. You know what I mean? Like showing face and then giving people cards or like whatever. Just you know what I mean? Just figuring out ways of like just expanding. Like I remember, sitting down with John, like just having talks like, let's just go here. We would just go places. We went to Miami and like do a pop up. We do a pop up a party at some store, like a pop up shop, randomly. Like just decided to email them and just see what would happen, and it happened. You know what I mean?
Get a response out of that.
Yeah,
we got a good response out of that, and a lot of our fan base was in Miami at the time.
Oh yeah, for the spring break.
Yeah, for spring break.
Crazy.
So like we realized that we're touching people in different cities.
Yeah.
And like it's growing. People know it. People want to share it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it goes from the events to the clothing.
So I was just gonna ask that. So I was gonna say like, how did the events that you guys were doing? How did that affect the sales of the clothing, or the maybe not even just the sales, but the awareness of the clothing?
This is what happened, and this is crazy because we had like we had a few mentors like that kind of like like pushed us in the right direction, and then like from listening to them, we kind of leaned more towards events because we really didn't have the money for production. You know what I mean? Like we had our own like financial situations like to deal with on our own with our families and things like that. So that kind of like affected the business to a certain extent. Like we just didn't have it to like invest so much. So we just thought like, what can make us money? Like what can we do? So we like started developing, like we tried, to develop our blog into more of like a place where people came to every day. So we would post like consistent content, get interviews, do videos, and that led into events because we still wanted to figure out a way of like making money. And like I was making money for myself outside. Like I would throw like events. I was throwing events in Philly, so I was throwing like bottle service events. But it got kind of like tired. I got tired of it, and I figured I should just focus more of that event expertise into the brand. So we just started really like focusing and throwing more events. But it affected the clothing to a certain extent because it was so much hype about Babylon Cartel's name that our clothing had to catch up because we were throwing events. Like we had a Little B event. Like we did like the first Little B event. We hosted the first A$AP Rocky event in Philly. We brought Trinidad James out. So it was like, like I guess the perception of us was like at its all-time high because you will be walking down South Street and you would see our names on like, like the billboard outside of the TLA. So it's like to a person that's walking down the street, at the end of the day, they see a name up there. That must mean they're getting money or they're doing something. That's the perception. So now it's like, okay, well, what's up with the clothes? So we would release little things here and there. Like they would sell, but we didn't really have the capital. You know what I mean? So that's how we decided to like fall back off of events altogether and kind of like move and re-strategize. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I looked at it like Bape or Nike. Like, if a Nike event is going on, you're going. If a Bape
Because
event
Nike
is happening,
has established themselves.
exactly.
Nike.
It's like Nike has hot things. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, they have hot shit. Bape is hot. You know what I mean? So it's like if opening ceremony throws an event, you're going because you know what they have. So it's like we have to have a timeless piece. We have to have timeless pieces because that's going to make people come to the events. That's going to make them download the mixtapes because they already know that the product is hot because it's physical.
I think, you know, with this, a lot of times, you know, people, because I do many things, just like, you know, all of us here. So, you know, from the films to the events, you know, the clothing, a lot of times people will be like, man, well, you know, focus, or like, you know, what do you like to do more? Or do you ever think that blah, blah? And I'm like, you know, what people don't understand is like, at the end of the day, I started all of this as a filmmaker, and I started doing these interviews, and I've been doing that for, you know, damn near 10 years. So like the focus has been there on that, you know what I mean? And I'm always going to be doing that. And it's like when I stepped outside and was like, oh, okay, well, now I can add something else to the resume, or now I can add this to the resume. It only enhanced the other things, you know what I mean? And like a lot of times I tell people, you know, we're living in a time right now where, you know, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, but as long as you focus, you know what I mean? It is possible to focus on two things, but you know, it's not possible to like have one thing successful that you're only giving 25% of your time to, and another thing that you're only giving, you know, 50% of your time to, or whatever. But like when you can focus on these things and make these things sort of like automated processes, you know what I mean? Then like the opportunities are endless. So I think that's kind of what it goes back to what you're saying, is like once you guys started to say, okay, close first, then everything else will follow. You know? How I'm curious to know, you know, what do you guys think are the top factors in what sells clothes today? You know, is it, I mean, because everybody sitting at this table, we've all had celebrities rocking our stuff, right? And like, so like, but is that just it? You know what I mean? Like, what makes a celebrity put it on? Like, what makes, you know, because to me, it's like, it has a lot to do with aesthetic, design, quality, like, you know, the web experience, how you see the picture, all this stuff. So, you know, talk a little bit about that, because I feel like sometimes a lot of people just think, oh, they had this person in it.
I think everybody thinks it's about the quick money, like what's trendy. It's really about, you know, sticking to your brand, sticking to like what you do, and constantly showing that. It's really about being persistent, and not following other people's paths, because at the end of the day, you want to be the first person that started something. You don't want to be the person that kind of looks like everybody else out there. So I think that's one of the main keys. And then also quality, just showing that, like, constantly just showing quality in your work, and showing, I think, also effort. People see effort all the time. You know, like being independent brands, like I see these guys hustles all the time, just coming out here. People they mess with that, you know? And I think that's definitely like a key. What else is there?
I think it's a combination of, like what you said, the quality, hustling. I definitely think, you know, tying your brand aesthetic is important. I think one thing people is making things that, you know, people want to keep. You know what I mean? Not making things that people just want to buy real quick, throw on, and then throw off, you know, throw it away after the night is over. You got to make things you know people want to keep, wear over and over again. Or even if you do make things that are quote unquote trendy or on trend, you make pieces that, you know, your pieces could be the statement piece. It could fit into whatever the trend is. You know what I mean? I think that's important with sellability. I think another thing is like visibility, and it has to tie into your brand. Like, you don't want to be thirsty for, you know, for the visibility. You don't want to just put.
So so like for the visibility, for instance, that is like a celebrity giving, you know,
because like the putting the wrong celebrity in your clothing, like you may get, I don't know, 5,000 new followers from that. And what does that do for your brand image? Nothing. It may diminish it. You know what I mean? If we have somebody rocking our brand who doesn't fit the bill at all, I mean, but yet they have a large following. People may or may not buy it, but they'll see it, but they may or may not buy it because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't connect. So it has to still connect with your brand aesthetic and your brand identity.
And I feel like that goes back to like really knowing your brand and sticking by it, like even in the face of what people might think. You know what I mean? Because people think, since to a certain extent, when you're accessible as a brand, like when people can like talk to you, like that's great. Like you should be like that. But when you're accessible and you do certain things, like for example, if a person like is wearing your brand that you might not necessarily think fits it, but they feel as though you should post it or something like that. That's where it gets a little tricky because we're dealing with like the new wave of technology and like the new wave of communication and how people interact, and a lot of it is through the internet. And it's like at the end of the day, millions of people wear Louis Vuitton, millions of people wear Chanel, but you don't see them posting shout outs. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, cool, like head nod, you know what I mean? Salute, like thank you for wearing that. But this is how we're going to display our brand each time. So to a certain extent, it doesn't matter if like we want, you know what I mean? Like in my eyes, I want everybody to wear it. You know what I mean? We're going to promote, we're going to display our brand a certain way. That's cool. If you feel as though that's cool and you like the way it's displayed, then you'll wear it based on that image. But you know what I mean? It's not like I feel like it's really like nothing wrong with that at all because the biggest brands do that, but they still want that customer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What social network? I mean, and I have my ideas about this, but I want to hear from y'all. What social network has the most to do with like the sales of the brand and right now?
I feel like Instagram.
Yeah. People don't.
It's visual.
Exactly. People don't. When I tell people this, and I was like, man, I told people the amount of mobbing hats we sold, and it was literally like, we would post it on Instagram, and tell people where to buy it, and like minutes later, it would be sales.
And it's like,
and I'm like, wow.
And it's no links.
Remember before that though. Remember before pointInstagram was really, really popping. You had to do that to Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah,
It wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same. No, it wasn't the same. No, not at all.
What was funny about Instagram is the fact that there's no links attached to it.
And that's so it's like somebody really has to want it. You know what I mean?
They really gotta want it.
It's crazy.
They really sitting there looking at it and figuring out how to type it in. There's no links.
Yeah.
And it's no links. And I feel like Instagram wanted it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's giving you
the
too
only
much
link
power.
you got is the profile link.
It's giving you too much power if you put these links in all your posts. You know what I mean? Then people would abuse it.
Yeah, exactly.
They would troll or they would like over promote, and they kind of like would, I guess, take down the value of Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, you know what I mean? The fact that you can't really post the link.
Yeah, but that really amazes me, man. I mean, I think that, like we're saying, I think it's because it is a visual social network. Like people can see things styled. They can see, I can rock it like this. You know what I mean? And it can just give them that sort of inspiration. What are some people that you guys look up to in the clothing game?
I'll let y'all.
Well, with me, I don't know about my two other business partners, but it's from the head, my head. I don't really look up to a lot of these other brands because I don't know. I feel like I don't want to copy anybody.
I see. Yeah.
So it's best to start from your ideas.
Yeah, and then let the inspiration flow from whatever.
You want to inspire people.
Yeah.
I don't let people. Well, I'm inspired by other people, but I'd rather inspire other people.
Gotcha. Like any other brands from you guys?
I mean, I'm inspired mostly from old animation directors and illustrators and stuff like that. So I'm huge on Chuck Jones. Old Warner Brothers, MGM stuff, Fritz Freeling, Tex Avery, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even like, Naruto stuff, Takashi, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really huge into like anime. I'm a huge like geek. You see me in streetwear or whatever, you wouldn't even figure, but like, I'm at home watching Pokemon. I just watched the last 2 Pokemon movies on Netflix.
I see your wall, man. Your wall is like all stuff that you've drawn, and it's like
so everything.
It's
a lot of my
incredible.
inspiration comes from like old '90s cartoons, Darkwing Duck, stuff like that. So it's great to see, go back and see some of that stuff and be able to revive, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
In the game, not necessarily anyone in the game. I can say like people that I really like admire. I'm really big on like artists that make people think, and they kind of know the DNA, not DNA, but they know like the process of like how humans think. And I think one of my biggest fans are like Quentin Tarantino. Another one's like Wes Anderson. Like the way they place art or the way they display the art in their film, they're conscious of what the person is going to see, versus what they hear and versus what they feel as well. You know what I mean? And then I kind of take that into account when I'm doing things for the brand. I want people to have those same. I want to affect people in a certain way, so I'm drawn to people who know how to make people feel a certain way every time they see something that they do. Like the aesthetic is there every single time in every Wes Anderson movie. Everything's lined up the same. Everything has
like
its
the
place.
consistency.
Yeah, the consistency is there. So I'm really, really big into people who think that way.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like Jean-Michel Basquiat, like he's definitely like a super inspiration to me. Just his level of thought and how he really just didn't care what other people's thought, like other people thought about him. You know what I mean? He knew, like, people don't really realize like how much he knew and like how he planned out his process and how he got to where he got. Like he literally said, "I'm not doing this no more. I'm going to turn into this person. This is what I'm gonna do." And he really like made it happen for himself. You know what I mean? Another person who did the same thing was like Tupac. You know what I mean? He kind of like built, you know what I mean, his image, and like he built like his thing that people like ended up like gravitating towards. But besides that, like I get real inspired by like Chanel, just like the simplicity of like the logo and how like synonymous it becomes in fashion. So it's like to a certain extent, like I wanted like the BC logo to like to have that same effect, like where you could just ascend past clothing and do like whatever you want to, you know what I mean? So those kind of like all together, you know what I mean? I like simplicity, but I like complex things at the same time. Like Jean-Michel was very complex with his delivery of his art, but it was a simple nature to it. And that's the same thing that you find in Chanel. And, you know, I feel like that really like shows like a true artist being able to like have those qualities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think another thing. Oh, I want to say Pharrell, man.
Pharrell, man.
Pharrell. Like,
Pharrell.
I think he just inspired our whole generation.
It's weird though, man, because like I think like, you know, it's weird to see because he kind of birthed us, like at the end of the day.
He did.
Back into like 2004, 5, 6, like there was nobody that represented like youth revolt culture more than Pharrell did. Like coming like Kanye, right?
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to see him have, you know, another second run at it.
Yeah.
And like he's like the king of.
You would think he would have never got any bigger. He did.
I didn't think it was gonna get this big. I think it was gonna be like one of those things that just stay linear. Like, okay, Pharrell's about to come out, drop the album. It's gonna be just like How In Search Of. And, you know, all the other NERD joints was, but like even his collaborations, like he's the king of collaborating and making it be aesthetically pleasing every single time.
Yeah, and it's like always his brand. It's his brand.
And it never feels like he's going outside of that. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter who he works with. You know, especially goes from music to fashion to now what is he doing now? He has like he has I Am Mother, and now he's creating film and advertising. So his content is like every time you see anything he puts a stamp on, it looks like something that Pharrell done.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's the thing that's
he has an amazing Uniqlo.
The Uniqlo with the bionic yarn thing.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
He has like it's the I Am Mother and Uniqlo something stuff. But I bought a shirt the other day when I was in New York. But yeah, he's the man. He's the man. And the music is on point.
Yeah, the music is like at an all time high with like being receptive around the world. But he kind of embodies like, you know, what I want to do with Babylon Cartels. Like no matter who we work with, like we have our presence is still known, right? It's in there, it's in the ingredients, but it's natural and it's an organic collaboration every time.
That actually like helped us understand, you know, building a brand more because we, you know, didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves and just, you know, dealing with what we thought cool was or what was trending. You know what I mean? Like it was certain trends that were like developing like within the past 2 or 3 years that are starting to kind of like fade out actually. You know what I'm saying? And it was like at that time, a lot of people were like aligning or like joining forces with like this new subculture that was developing like in hip hop. And this is only just one portion of like the whole scale of what was going on. You know what I mean? But to a certain extent, like the trends and everything that happened in that little like subgenre that just developed, they kind of like they're falling out. The players might still be there, you know what I mean? But they're falling out. And that showed us like, yo, we don't have to just stay in one lane, you know what I mean? If we remain true to what we are and what we present and how we put our stamp on it, we can show you what this is and why we're shining our light on it. And like another like entity that does that is Fader Magazine. Fader Magazine can go from Future, Young Thug, all the way to Bjork, Grimes, you know what I mean? Like that's the scale. They can do anything, but at the end of the day, it's still a Fader cover. It's like, wow. cool. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they can go.
They've established
to the hood.
like what their taste is.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like this is our taste. And sometimes we like the ratchet. Sometimes we like the regal. You know what I mean? And it's like we could be that same brand, you know what I mean, that same entity, but do it in our own way.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, the logo's on it, the stamp is on it.
Yeah.
So you should trust our opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you know, when it comes to your time spent, you know, Gianni, we were talking a little bit about this earlier, right? But you know, how do you guys spend your time? Like, let's just talk about like, you know, well, Gianni and I were talking about how other people spend their time, and like, and how sometimes it's not as productive as it should be. But you know, just take me through like how your time is spent, because a lot of my friends who are like entrepreneurs and chasing something, it's like we were talking about earlier with your living situation. It's like 24 hours, you know. But like take people through a normal week. What does it look like for you guys?
Well, for me, I'm in the studio snapping pictures all the time. So, you know, basically that's good for me, and also it's helping the brand as well as, you know, when it's time to like shoot some visual or content, like we can. I'm on my A game with it.
Yeah,
you know,
because you're always practicing essentially.
Exactly.
Sharpening that tool.
Yeah.
So
that's me. I'm always in the studio.
Yeah. What about you, John?
Me, I'm at a game development company right now, just doing like a production designer. So it's kind of cool doing that. Just seeing like fresh faces and, you know, people that are kind of like in the tech sector of the world, and just kind of like knowing people that don't give a crap about fashion. It's kind of refreshing because you can kind of see what these consumers are into and kind of how to like, you know, brand towards them, you know. And then also after work, I'm out here with these guys sometimes. You know, I live about 5 minutes away, so you know, sometimes I'm out here, sometimes I'm doing shoots at the crib. Most of the time it's like shipping, coming up with like product design, contacting manufacturers, stuff like that, hitting up like pattern makers, trying to get samples done. So it's a lot, you know, just trying to get stuff done in a whole day, and then just photography too, just trying to get models, you know, it's tough. But it's got to get done.
And what about you?
Yeah, like for me, there's always those moments where it's like a chill work moment. Like I think I find it's a blessing to like be able to put my feet up for a sec, but get on the computer and work at the same time.
And still, yeah.
So like for me, it's like I'm always doing market research. I'm always seeing like what kids are. Literally, I'm a culture junkie. So I'm literally like I'm taking in all the things that have happened, you know, within like the past week, you know, not necessarily brand related, but like culture related, and seeing like what the consumers are into, what they want, how they want it, how they're getting it, you know, how people stop them from getting it, whatever. And then if when it comes to the brand, like I'm working with Gianni with, you know, product development. I'm working, you know, looking for new models, and like what John does everything for his brand. You know, maybe me and Mark are sitting down looking at photography stuff. I mean, like we're looking at, you know, new lookbooks or new editorials that's coming out. So it's like there's never a dull moment. There's never a moment where I just say, okay, I can put my feet up all day and just like do shit.
Yeah,
like,
never.
And even like it's never a day. Like I can just be out with my lady and like literally I'm answering emails like at dinner. Like you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. This job doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Like it's a blessing to be busy, because if I'm busy, I'm working, I'm doing exactly what I want to do. This is the job that I want. This is my dream job. Like I've started a brand, and like we're creating product, and you know we have people on our line all the time. Whether it's a photographer, whether it's a model or it's a customer, you know, there's always something for us to do. And I hated those moments. You know, being before we got out here, honestly, there were a lot of moments where we could take a week off and not have to do anything, because we didn't have the consumer or the fan base or the responsibility that we have now. You know, so it's a blessing just to work this much. Honestly.
Yeah. You know, it's I asked that because you know, a lot of people. I have my little sisters out here with me, which you guys just met, and so I'm taking them around LA and sort of showing them
Big brother thing.
my life, exactly, doing this big brother thing, and my little sister said to me, she was like, your life is a vacation. And I was like, wait, yeah. You know, I was like, are you crazy, little girl? You know, like,
Going to see these people is actually still work.
You know, exactly. So I think it's because, you know, we were at the beach and she was like, and I was talking about how I am going to go on a vacation. And I was like, I'm going to Hawaii later in a few months. And I was like, you know, I'm going to finally take a vacation. And she was like, and I think, you know, a lot of people get it misconstrued in the, you know, it's like on the one hand, my life is, yes, it's like fun. I'm very blessed and happy to be doing everything I love doing and be providing for myself for that. But on the other hand, it's like you guys are all saying, you know, when I asked that question, what does a day look like for you guys? None of you guys were like, yeah, chilling at the bar, you know what I mean? Or like, yeah, just
right.
like, you know, catching up on all these TV shows and, you know what I mean? Just watching TV for hours on end. It's like, the things that, you know, a lot of people do and spend time doing, none of us are really, you know, you don't have the luxury to do that stuff because where everybody's on the come up, we're trying to make something happen and we're pursuing extraordinary goals, things that are not normal, you know, and a lot of people don't understand that, you know, in that there's, it's a devotion, you know what I mean? And you have to give up a lot of other things in your life.
Right. And it's funny because like being busy becomes like the luxury, and once you realize that if you're busy, that means you're actually doing something. If your phone is ringing, if your email is going off, you know what I mean, and like it becomes like, you know, sort of like a drug or something that you get addicted to because you want more of it, you know what I mean. But I feel like to a certain extent, like, and like Aaron always tells me this, like to a certain extent you also have to like, you know, be able to recharge or like step back and see what you've done and like be able to like just contemplate and like just, you know what I mean, get yourself in the right space. And I feel like with me, like my journey's been kind of like weird lately, but weird in a good way because like I feel like I do juggle a lot, and I felt like it took me a while to get to this point where I can kind of like focus on what it is, and it's like, you know what I mean, building my brand, you know what I mean, answering these emails, talking to manufacturers, but it's at the same time like I started like, you know, going on a path of like, you know, becoming like more of a musician and producer. So it's like at the same time, it's like as much time as I'm devoting into the brand, I'm devoting into like actually creating music. But what's funny about this is me, you know, creating music is actually helping me understand my brand better, because now I have to understand how what it means to really be an artist, like artists that people like, you know what I mean, they buy into you. So me diving into that and like, you know what I mean, having myself kind of like be like sort of like the guinea pig, because it's like I'm becoming a brand, but at the same time the brand is a brand, but now I understand it more because like I'm like personifying it to a certain extent. And it's like weird, like sometimes you gotta like step back and you just have to like recharge or like get outside and like that's how you'll get how you get inspiration sometime, you know, like
turn everything off. You know?
One of my favorite like documentaries, like the September issue, and it talks about Anna Wintour and like Vogue, you know what I mean, and like how she would, you know, her day is crazy, like from the moment she gets up. And she takes some time to just look out the window. And she says, you know, I got to keep my eyes open because I never know where I'm going to find inspiration. She might find a crazy, you know, mood just from like walking down the street that she can use for like an editorial, or like she might have just got inspired by something she saw in the newspaper. And, you know, like it's just, it's crazy to be able to like have that level of like understanding. And it just took us and everybody at this table getting out of our comfort zones to be able to see like it's more than just a square mile radius of our cities, you know what I mean? And it's like people always kind of like battle with themselves of like where they're from and their origins, and like, yeah, you got to stay, it's cool to stay true to it, you're supposed to, but at the end of the day, you look at the greats, they moved around, like they weren't just needed in just one place, they were needed elsewhere, they were, you know what I mean, they were like, they became that, you know? So you have to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Man, guys, I mean, that was a great talk, and I like doing these group podcasts, man, to get a lot of input from, you know, not just one person, man. So, anything that you guys are working on that you guys want to shout out, obviously let these people know how they can, you know, get in contact with each of the brands and everything.
Okay.
Working on a new collection right now for Babylon Cartel. It's called Prisoner of War. Should be releasing, you know, late July. It's going to be really, really, really fun in terms of like.
Is that some of the stuff I saw?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's nice. Yeah.
It's a little bit more minimalistic than the things we've normally done, but we still find ways to be minimalistic, but still have some complexity in there. Sometimes, like we found our aesthetic, and we found, you know, what works, you know, for when we're trying to like, all right, say we're basically just trying to not necessarily like reinvent fashion reinvent high-end streetwear, but we're just trying to put our mark on it. And we're making things this time around that, that signifies what's going on in streetwear, but like what's going on next for like the next few years.
Yeah, like we're trying to like be ahead of the game, but in a totally different way. Like not just saying it, but really like being able to understand culture, understand where it's going versus where it's at right now. Because you got to kind of like be on your A game and be on top of it, because that's how you kind of like can like kind of nudge the trends of where they're going. Because to a certain extent, you even though you don't want to be a trend, you're moonlighting with it. You know what I mean? You're dancing with the trend.
Yeah.
So you you have to know when to just turn that motherfucker the other way, like to the left and to the right. You know what I mean? It's crazy. You know. So that's what our brand is about. That's what our new collection is about. It's mixing culture. It's mixing ideals of war and futurism. You know what I mean? And like just really going out of your dream, like what this podcast is about, like, you know what I mean? What you represent, Jabari, is like what our collection is,
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Nice.
Oh, me right here. Oh man, I'm not gonna top that right there. I mean, we're just releasing products constantly, just trying to get stuff out like every other week, and then just focusing on that. And then we have like a third Saturday, us in Babylon, happening every month in DC. It's called Everyone. Everyone's invited, pretty much.
Nice.
That's what we're working on right now. Just constantly working on projects too. Making great visuals. Just like today and yesterday, we were just out here just shooting everybody coming through. Had like about 30, 40 people come through, just shoot them, and just positive vibes. That's what we're trying to push now, is a lot of positive energy, and just making sure people, we're influencing other people. We do we've done like a lot of negative things in the past. So right now, we try to do that, be a positive energy for other people, and we try to display that like on our Twitter and our Instagrams too. Sometimes just these kids look up to us, so it's like you don't want to be out there talking about bitches and shit and all this stuff. So it's like you wanna like tell these kids follow their dreams and all that stuff. So that's what we're trying to do right now.
Nice.
And actually be like examples of that, not just saying it.
Not just saying it. That's real. That's very real, man. You have to live it. All right, guys. Websites, Instagrams, Twitters. Let them have it.
Babylon Cartel. You know how to spell that? Babylon. Cartel, Cartel. Gianni Lee, of course. That's Giannilee. You got Mark Babylon over here. You Mark Babylon on everything, right? We're like, our shit is the same.
Babylon. Yeah. Mark Babylon.
On Instagram, Twitter.
MarkBablon.
Yeah, then BabylonCartel.com. It's Aaron Babylon.
Simple.
Aaron Babylon, Mark Babylon, Gianni.
Oh yeah, we got to shout out. I'm sorry. Before we got to shout out Danielle, because Danielle's not here, but Danielle is another
entity
of the brand, like a very integral piece. Like I work very closely with her with like all the designs. Like she's a beast. Like, and we just need to shout her out. So make sure you follow her, Danielle Babylon, on everything. She's a vicious illustrator, and like she's another like crazy piece of the puzzle, because she also, her origin started from AnmlHse, because she went to Art Institute in Philadelphia. So she knew those guys too. So it's like a big family.
And then you can find us on Google, all our links, AnmlHse. That's not a stunt. I mean, that's not a stunt. You should know. People should know how to use Google. It's the same thing on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever. And then follow me, Johnny Rabbit, no H.
Yeah, Johnny Rabbit.
I gotta change your name. It's no H. I gotta get rid of the H.
I know John for like 7 years. His name is still John. And I gotta change it too.
I guess I don't know. I'm thinking about this. We never really talked about Babylon Cartel and AnmlHse always collaborate. So we're always working on new collaborative projects together. And everyone event that John was speaking of is a collaborative project of Babylon Cartel, like and AnmlHse. Like this is what we do. Like that's why John's here. That's why we're It's a collective.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, people gotta, for those that don't know, man, John shot all the bi-coastal photos that are on the website. You know what I mean? The product shots and the model shots. So like, all of us guys in here, man, we work together, and this is this is how it's supposed to be done, and this is how everybody else does it at the top.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, people don't know. So like
For those that,
They don't know. Like it's
don't know.
strength in numbers. It's like you don't want to win by yourself. You want to take people and help other people win.
Yep.
Because that's how you're gonna win. You know, right now we got like 20 cats out here winning together. You
Yep.
know, we're not just working on our own stuff. You know,
Yeah.
we do stuff out here. We collaborate. So
Yep.
you know, you got people watching you. They gonna watch your friends.
Right.
You got
Yep.
people watching your friends. They gonna watch you. So. You know, that's the way we try and do it out here. We did in Philly, so we try and do that out here.
Absolutely.
yeah, for those that don't know about John, he single-handedly is the reason why like Philadelphia is in the right place when it comes to web design. He's designed websites for like mostly all the top brands coming out of Philadelphia right now, functioning, living, breathing websites, and that kind of like helped Philadelphia have some type of like just muscle power in this industry that's developing right now. And if it wasn't for him, a lot of people wouldn't have these websites. So I just want to like commend him on that and like just the work he did in the city that people don't even know. You know what I mean? Like people will talk about it like when books are written. You know, when these you know what I mean, when these little journals are written about, you know, web development and all that, like John's gonna be the one.
John
Trust
put a
me.
manifesto out.
Yeah, John's gonna create an app that's gonna retire on some island somewhere.
In like 2 years.
The app's gonna be the island.
Oh man, nah, thank you guys seriously for coming out, man. As you guys know, we do this thing Mondays. I go by the name of Jabari. Please check out and support the new line Bicoastal, bicoastalusa.com.
Yeah.
And if you're enjoying the podcast, go to patreon.com/Jabari and leave a tip for as little as $1 per episode. And I'll see you guys again very soon. All right, it's been another Words with Friends. Peace.
Peace.